I questioned giving those pink slips in effect to the men and women in combat in Afghanistan at the exact same time that the folks here got them. But as you look at the circumstances, they get a year from when the decision was made. It would have been unfair to not give them that full year. And so you had this tug of war, as I mentioned earlier, between you give them some information that will have an impact on what they're doing downrange, or do you withhold that from them and then they know that all of their colleagues here stateside in the continental United States got those notices, and then they're wondering, am I going to get one when I get back, and those kind of things. So the Army thought it out, and the best it came to the answer that let's give them to everybody who's going to get one all at the same time. Yes, we've got men and women in combat, but they're professionals. It'd be better for them to deal with the reality of what it is as opposed to the uncertainty of not knowing whether they're going to get one when they got back home. This is hard, and we're cutting the size of the Army. When you cut the size of the number of troops, then you've got to have fewer captains, fewer majors, fewer everything. Everything shrinks accordingly, and people's lives are affected. We've got men and women in that group of captains who have exemplary records, have perfect OERs, Officers of Evaluation Reports. They've served their country. They deployed multiple times. They've done exactly what they needed to do to maintain their status in the Army, and yet the Army can't afford to keep them. And so through no fault of their own, through this president, his lack of leadership in military spending, and continue to shrink the size of the Department of Defense, good men and women are being affected by this drawdown. And that's what happens when you draw down the services. You've got to fire people, and it is unpleasant.
We're talking with Congressman Mike Conaway, Republican of Texas, and represents the 11th District, serves on the Armed Services Committee and in the Intelligence Committee. By the way, the Goodfellow Air Force Base is located in the Congressman's district, a non-flying U.S. Air Force base. Main mission is cryptologic and intelligence training for Air Force, Army, Navy, and the Marine Corps. We'll go to Robert in Marion, Louisiana, Democratic caller.
Yeah, good morning.
Morning.
It's not a good morning just sitting here listening at this Republican talk out of both sides of the neck. If I hear one more time that Israel got a right to defend itself, everybody got the right to defend themselves. Gaza Strip ain't nothing but a little strip. What the hell they gonna put? How they gonna fight somebody and put their arms somewhere and they ain't got nowhere to fight from in a clustered up place like Gaza Strip?
Okay, Congressman.
Well, they're apparently fighting pretty well because they're shooting rockets and missiles into Israel. They had one within a mile of the airport that helped close the airport for a point of time. Hundreds and hundreds of rockets are being shot out of Gaza into Israel before Israel took this step. So it's clear that the folks in Gaza are fighting. They've got weapons, they've got training, and they picked this fight. And so Israel does, in fact, have a right to defend itself. Let me add to my Goodfellow folks. I couldn't let that go by. We also train all the entry-level firefighters through all services. Go through Goodfellow Air Force Base as a part of the additional mission that they've got is training firefighters. And my firefighter guys down there would be a little grumpy with me if I didn't mention them as well.
Okay, we'll go to Beatrice in Blue Mountain, Mississippi. Democratic caller.
Yes, I would just like to know.
Yeah, we're listening. We're listening. Go ahead. You're on the air.
I would just like to know, why is everything laid at the president's feet when it's always the Democrats and the Republicans arguing amongst themselves? Maybe if they would come together on a sound decision, it'd make decisions better for everyone all around, and we could get something done about our country.
Well, thank you, ma'am. I appreciate that. The president was hired to lead this country. He should be leading us back to a consensus like you're talking about. He's in his second term. He's never going to have to run for re-election. What better position is a person like that to lead this country, to say to the extremes on both sides, extreme right, extreme left, look, we can't govern out there. We need to govern toward the middle and begin to bring this country together. And that's his role, is to make that happen. No one has a better bully pulpit than the President of the United States. And President Obama is not using it to do that. He's continuing to be even more divisive every single day. And so he's leading our country to have this split. If you look at the Congress, we are a reflection of the American people. We are downstream, in effect, from the American people. So all of this divisiveness you see going on, the lack of ability to get along, so to speak, and to make deals, is reflective of what I'm hearing from my constituents. It's what the Democrats are hearing from their constituents. And so we have a divided nation. And who better to bring this nation back together than the President of the United States? That's his job. He's got nothing to lose at this point to do that. And it would be in the best interest of all of us if he would say to the Republicans and the Democrats, let's do, in fact, work together. But every time we come to the president with an issue that's supported as, say, entitlement reform, he says, great, give me $1 trillion of new tax revenues. No, Mr. President, we're not doing that. Well, how about tax reform, Mr. President? Could we do fundamental tax reform? Give me another $1 trillion of tax revenue. Well, no, Mr. President, we're not going to do that. That's not in the best interest of our country. So much of this has to get laid at the feet of the president because he's the one person, got the one microphone and the one bully pulpit, as I mentioned, that could help bring this country back together and begin to solve some of these problems. Are we going to agree on every single thing? Absolutely not. That's just not the nature of the beast. But the president has that responsibility, and he is not living up to that responsibility.
This is the Hill newspaper with a headline on Iraq. U.S. officials warning that ISIS is worse than al-Qaeda. Do you agree with that assessment?
Yes, I do.
Why?
They're fouler. They're meaner. They're better. They are actually operating in military-like fashion, and they are more capable because they're concentrated and because of the ability of the territory they've already taken. They are a force to be reckoned with, and they will destabilize the Middle East if we're not careful.
Another question for you on Iraq. This is in the Washington Times this morning. Al-Maliki rejects Iran's urging to step down. Iraq's Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki rejected an attempt by Iran to persuade him to step down. This is according to senior Iraqi politicians, underlining his determination to defy even his top ally to push for a third term in office and further exasperating the country's political crisis.
Yeah. George Washington set a great example when he walked away from the most powerful position in the United States after 2 terms. And I would hope that other world leaders would look at what's in the best interest of their country. I don't know if Maliki should be the guy. I don't think he should be. But he ought to be operating as our president should be operating, and what's in the best interest of all Iraq, and why has he in fact brought the Sunnis together, brought the Kurds together, formed that coalition government, and if it's in the best interest of his country for someone else to lead as prime minister, then I would hope he would love his country, love his people enough to do that. And so far he's disagreed with that analysis. He thinks it is in the best interest of his country for him to do that, and obviously a difference of opinion.
The Senate Foreign Relations Committee this morning will be taking up the issue of U.S. policy in Iraq. We will have live coverage of that on C-SPAN 3 at 10 a.m. Eastern Time, as well as C-SPAN Radio. Donald, St. Augustine, Florida, independent caller. Good morning to you.
Yes, good morning. Thanks for taking my call. I just wanted to comment about the Israel-Gaza conflict, but first I want to roll back to what the congressman just said about bully pulpit. We hear a lot of sound bites that just don't match the situation. Leadership is neither bullying nor is it from the auspices of a pulpit. So let me just let that float. My comment on Israel-Gaza goes back to when the Israelis first withdrew from Israel. The first thing they did was tear down all the settlements they had built.
Did you hold on, Donald? Did you mean withdraw from Gaza in 2005?
Well, yes, back when they first withdrew from Gaza and the West Bank both,
okay.
They had placed settlements there, and a part of the peace agreement, when they withdrew, there was nothing in there for them to destroy these settlements. I think it would have been a wonderful gesture on the part of the Israelis. Perhaps it would have caused them a different attitude among the Palestinians had they left those settlements for the poor, overcrowded people that were there. They put a lot of money into building them, and then they just tore them down. And if there was just one gesture they could make to say, we want peace, this might have been their opportunity.
Well, that's speculation. Those were built by the individual Israelis with their own money, and part of the issue was how do you keep the Israelis out of them if you're going to resettle them. And I don't know all of the decisions that were made, and I don't disagree that had the conditions in the West Bank and Gaza are deplorable. They're horrible, and if those settlements would have helped, that's fine. But at the time it was going on, in order to get the Israelis out of those places, I think the decision was made they needed to destroy the settlements in order to effectively relocate the Israelis.